The main thing we're going to talk about is finances, but I think a big piece of this, or what I feel, is just like the seriousness of the situation of a report of findings. Like, and it first starts with the doc. I think the way that I look at a day two is I'm going to look through every little detail. I'm going to look at the oswestry, and I've said this over and over. I look at the oswestry. I look at their intake form, what they've put, whether it says like, how often do you have these symptoms, and it might be 50%, 75%, 100% of the time. They write so many details. I can't sleep, more than 6 hours without waking up with pain. Or I'm a truck driver and I drive 10 hours during the day, and then you look at the oswestry and it says that they can't sit more than 30 minutes without pain. Like, you should kind of link that stuff together. Like, you see the console, they say that I'm a truck driver, I drive this many hours, and then the oswestry says I can't sit more than 30 minutes without pain. Like, y'all should make that connection and understand and try to put yourself in the position of that patient so you can really feel that. Like, imagine if your life work to take care of your kids was something that physically put you in pain. Like, you should put yourself into that position. And then, like, two things I would say link together: that, and also when you walk into a report of findings, think about our best case scenarios. Think about the patients that their lives have changed like the most, right? The first one that comes to mind is, for me, is Smiley. Like, and I'm sure he's told everybody this story, like on his like third or fourth visit, he's like, "Doc, I gotta tell you that, man," and he's already starting to tear up. He's like, I can't remember the last time I could walk through the entire grocery store on my own. And when we pulled into the parking lot the other day, I told my wife, "Hey, just stay here, because I'm gonna go in. I think I can do it." And he's like, "Man, I went grocery shopping by myself. I walked, and I could do it." And he's like, "I can't remember the last time that I did that." And for me, that's just one that stands out to me because, like, I mean, he's telling me this with tears in his eyes, And I know that you all have, like, there's many times that a patient has told you things that have changed their life that, by coming here has done. And I think you need to link both of those together. And at the same time, understand your philosophy to know that the power and the potential of chiropractic, like what it can actually do. Like, if you see a patient that, if they have any type of degeneration or degenerative disc disease, biomechanically we know what that comes from is loss of movement in the spine. Who else can help with that better than us? Can a physical therapist stretch it away? Can the patient stretch it away on their own? Can they take injections? Can they take medication and that's going to restore movement in the spine? It's absolutely not going to do that. Like, your hands on the patient, whether it's, even if it's decompression, if it's the adjustment, all of those things, they help reinstill movement back to the joint, which helps fluid exchange back to the disc. It's going to help not only take pressure off the nerve, but it's going to help restore the absolute health to that disc and help prevent it from getting worse over time. And another thing that I think about too is, like, sometimes we kind of cloud our mind with all these other things as far as, like, I don't know if the patient's going to be receptive to it. I don't know if they can afford it. All these different things. And what that brings to mind for me is, I don't remember who it is, but there's a philosopher that talks about, the angel on your shoulder and the devil, right? Like, that's our conscience. That's what it is, our conscience. It's like we have these good thoughts, and then we have these other combative thoughts, right? So, but this philosopher says, imagine if it was two angels and not an angel and a devil, right? So the idea is, what if everything that could go right did go right? Think about that. Like, literally, if everything that could go right did go right, a patient comes in that's never been introduced to chiropractic, they've been suffering, and I don't even want to say suffering, because even if they don't have pain, I still think it's serious if they have a straight neck and they don't have symptoms yet. Even that, even if we use that as an example, patient comes in with a straight neck, they don't know anything about posture, about correction, about subluxation, because if they have a straight neck, they absolutely have multiple subluxations. And there's going to be loss of movement, and over time those discs are going to get damaged and nerves are going to get damaged too, right? So even if that patient came 2 or 3 times, like, the outcome of their life, I truly believe that it's going to be exponentially different if they came 3 times and got adjusted as opposed to never getting adjusted, Or if we even gave them a denier, what if that got through to them, What if they came 5 or 10 times, never went to a chiropractor again, but they had the denier, and the denier helped them and they saw the value in that, and then for the rest of their life they're using the denier. I think we would all agree that alone would help, even if it's not going to correct the problem, to some degree it's going to help stop it from getting worse. And that's your duty as a doctor, I mean, if you're not a doctor, that's your duty, like representing this clinic and representing the doctors to help get patients into good care. You know, we need to like truly see the power in what we do. And if you have that faith and that belief in, you know, in yourself and what we do, and you really kind of think of it that way, when you walk into the room, it's already serious for you. Like the first thing a patient, like most of the time a patient tells me when I walk in, because I have that, like I'm a real emotional guy, like, you know, like, so I connect with people like emotionally. When I walk in, I'm, hey, you know, John, I got your x-rays. There's some things on there I got to talk about, you know, that we need to talk about. I want you to really understand, and you know, let's just take a look. Like just saying that, but in the back of my mind, all these other things, it comes off in a different way. Like my body language, my tone, like my empathy, it's there. And then so many times I can't tell you a patient is like, man, what's going on? Like I'm instantly connected to the patient just because of that. Because I'm already like, I guess I would say emotionally connected with them already before I walk in, because I'm thinking of their life, you know? And then when I walk in there, it's so easy to make a connection. And it's not because Dr. G and all this stuff, it's just because people see that. And Dr. Brown will tell you, I've been doing this before people knew who I was. Like, you know, literally. I've always had that connection. And it's just something natural for me, but I always kind of look at all the pieces of the puzzle and I put it together in a certain way. And then it comes off natural. And I'll say it time and time again, if you can do these things, you don't need a script. You know, it's important to study like sales techniques and tactics and scripts and all these things. Just like when I was in school, I wouldn't try to memorize these things. I would just read my notes, and at some point, it's part of my intuition. And then I look at intuition as not like, oh, just something that came out of the blue. I think that intuition is a collection of knowledge that we don't really understand how we get to it, but it just comes and we get a feeling like, oh, I should say this. Oh, like, for some reason that needs to be said. And you may not know why, but we don't know. We can't hold and remember all of our memories, but they're there. And then if you understand how to connect with your intuition, you're going to know what to say in the right time, and it's going to be powerful. And you're going to be able to connect with patients. You're going to be able to like close on patients. I don't really like saying that. Leslie knows I hate when we say that. I think we should change the terminology to just like, oh, we had 5 patients this morning, start care. Like that's what it really should be, because that's what it's about. It's about them getting better. It's not about the money. That's the other part of it too. Like, never worry about, like, never let finances block you. Thinking like, oh, I don't know if this patient can afford it. That's not your problem. It's not your business. I mean, my conviction on that is that I personally believe that money is like infinitely abundant. And I can tell you, like my history, my background, I've shared it with a few of you before. Like the house I grew up in cost like $25,000. Like I had like one car. My dad made like $30,000, and just like to see where I'm at now, it's like, how did I get here? You know, like Jay-Z, yeah, Leslie's rolling her eyes, right? Blank in Paris, right? He's like,
oh my God.
He has a line. He says, "I'm not even supposed to be here." You know. Like, seriously, like, anybody, like, money's there. And I can't tell you how many times, like, I've heard, like, my parents have struggled so many times, and they're like, oh, I don't know how we're going to pay our taxes, I don't know how we're going to pay our what. Like, something always comes through. Like, that energy is there. And then something comes up, and they're, oh, my God, like, we got this money from this, oh, my God. Like, that energy is there for everybody. Like, so forget about money. It's there. Patients will figure out a way to afford it, or it's going to be attracted to them in some way, if it's a necessity. But it's only a necessity if you think it is, and you can transfer that energy to them, and they can see it as a necessity, then they're going to create that energy somehow to be able to afford it, and it's going to be beautiful for everybody. You know, we're going to build the biggest practice in the world. Patients are going to get the best care. It's going to be like, I mean, insane amount of referrals. You're going to be able to change so many different lives, you know? But that's all I want to say as far as like the seriousness. I think it does need to be, we need to see it as serious. And then if we can transfer that to the patient, a day 2 is so easy. It's ridiculous how easy it can be as long as you can make that connection with the patient. But that's it. Okay.